Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be carrying on with the serial story, Evolution, and it's time to us to talk to the rowdy Corsair's crew. You find the mangy cutthroat drunks in the Arrant Limpet, with their captain imprisoned and their ship sunk. The crew of the Fluke's Folly can dedicate more time to every bloodthirsty privateer's favourite hobby, singing. If it's not Seven Moon Pearls or Drunken Drowny, then it's bound for Irem, or Don't Pull the Fathom King's Beard. They need all the practice they can get, judging by these renditions. So, the original deal was we get them 10,000 stashed treasure, and they will help us find the ship we're looking for. For a cut of your own ship's bounty hunting income, they'll cooperate. Here's more cause for them to sing. You dump treasure onto the nearest table until the legs complain with creaking groans. And sing they do, along with the bustling barmaid, whose pockets will receive the bulk of this plunder before the evening's done. They launch into Blow the Khan Down and Carnelian Nights before a cutthroat tenor belts The Pie That Killed Death, a ballad accompanied by actual pies and lager, courtesy of the bustling barmaid, whose courtesy also extends to accurately updating their tab. With the lager and pies still flowing, they're more than happy to roll out the Z-charts and show you where to locate your quarry. We got ourselves one captivating ballad, one basket of rubbery pies, and one magisterial lager, but it cost us 10,000 stashed treasure. But enough celebration. Let's get down to business. We can discuss their contract with the Mithridate office. What can they tell you about their time sailing under the flag of Nida? They describe vessels shrouded in smoke, tripods and braziers, incense like the kind at church, perfuming the sacristan's fleet. When the Fluke's Folly sank, their own captain was still retained as a deckhand aboard the Delight. They were more fortunate. Tanachuk, Venderblight, Apis Meat, Klein, all ports they touched in their pursuit. Not just the Youthful Naturalist, but for other targets. Thou shalt harm no thing that flies, for they carry the airs of the garden, recites an eye-patched soprano. Only to my servants is it given to hunt them, and you'd better believe we hunted them. Prester's law, says the cutthroat tenor. For someone employing pirates, the commander could get awfully persnickety about the law. So, we can study a few puzzling maps. Luckily we have enough here, you need them to pinpoint where you can find the Delight, or I could study your mostly cooperative chart that I don't have. I vaguely remember seeing that somewhere. Was it in the Citadel within the Citadel? This is where we can come to exchange our stashed treasures. Above the chaos and violence, the Corsair's Citadel contains a smaller, yet more secret haven. Here, carved into the very face of the morn itself, is the sanctuary of the Prophet's Call. Half funerary temple, half market. Morning candles, gutter and flare. Corsairs sporting azure clothes trade in treasures and favours, marking the name of completed prophecies in a yellowing ledgers. Blue-winged birds go where they please and menace passers-by. The guards acknowledge your Corsair's colours and incline their heads. You are free to do business here. Oh, this is some plunder for the Salt Steppe Atlas. This is not what I thought it was. Charts of the Eastern Sea are hard to come by in London. The Corsairs take everything from everywhere. You can also get morning candles, cave-aged code of honour, a relatively safe Z-lane, or a fabulous diamond. None of the things that I am currently looking for. Let's hope we can pass it with our puzzling maps. A 90% chance, that doesn't mean much, does it? A jab at the maps. Here. This is where the Delight often hunts And here. And here. And sometimes over here. Depends on the false stars, you know, and the currents, the tides of the imposter moon, and the migratory paths of certain birds. Luckily, you can account for these factors, but finding the delight is only half the challenge. If you're going to rescue the youthful naturalist, you can't simply attack and sink the ship. You'll have to board it, extract him safely. No simple task. As the second sacristan's ex-employees can attest, since only the most zealous thralls are permitted aboard. So we need to devise a plan to board the Delight, and we only have a 51% chance with my shadow equality. Luckily, that has been improved recently. Not much, but maybe it'll help. 62%. Lovely. And it required us to have the shattered mask with enough guile. Perhaps you can infiltrate the ship. The Mithridate office contracted many corsairs, but only the most fanatical are masked. Now you have the rowdy corsair's mask. You could wear it and present yourself as another Zayla indentured to the second sacristan, and you would be Neilhord, drawn and quartered. Or worse, according to one battle-scarred baritone, unless you demonstrate your loyalty. When we weren't chasing that scholarly chap, the commander had us hunting birds, says the cutthroat tenor. Never did capture a blue prophet. Now yours would make a fine tribute. Wait, I'm going to give him my bird? Oh no! If you offer this azure beauty as tribute, you might be accepted aboard the Delight. Let's see if we can convince our bird. Now we succeeded. Ruffled feathers, an indignantly rolled eye, which somehow pierces you sharper than a saber. But finally, after much coaxing, you convince your blue prophet to subject itself to the scheme. It will condescend to step into a cage when the moment arrives, and tolerate, briefly, its role as mock tribute. Mock tribute only. And if this scheme goes awry, well, it won't. Because wheeling high overhead, there is an azure flock whose cries could send every corsair in Geiger's Morn after your ship. Now, however, your blue prophet calls another name. Caw-caw! Death to the Delight. Let's consider how to pursue the Delight. You have the map, the mask, the mock tribute. It's time to hunt. The prophet's call. When you are sailing, attend to matters piratical and raise the corsair's flag, then consult your blue prophet. If you are not currently pursuing another bounty, which I might be, you'll now be able to choose the Delight as a target. Once you finally make contact with the Delight, you will need to present your blue prophet as an offering. This will require a whirling contraptions components to create a cage. If you don't have any whirling contraptions, you should acquire one before meeting the Delight. You can commission a whirling contraption at the workshops of the Great Downward Engineering Company in the bizarre side streets. I believe I have quite a few of those. Okay, so let's put to sea. I'm going to have to abandon my current bounty, I feel, to allow me to go after the Delight. Hear the name of the Delight. From the Elder Continent, captained by the second sacristan, and currently holding the youthful naturalist captive. Catch it before it returns to Nida. The Prester's hand hunts in many waters. You may not know the Delight's exact location, but thanks to the rowdy corsair's crew, you now have a sense for the vessel's preferred sailing lanes. Before returning to Nida, the second sacristan has more flying beasts to catch, and you have a blue prophet to deliver. Your prophet lands on your shoulder and fluffs its feathers. Its cries are quieter now and less varied. Delight! Caw-caw! It creaks like an antique wardrobe. Caw-caw! Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to track down the Delight. I'm not going to bother recording it again since the entire of the last episode was me hunting a ship, and we know how that went. So I'm going to hunt this ship down. I will bring us back. I'll bring you back. I'm going to be here the whole time. if there's any new interesting cards that I pull that are related specifically to the Delight, and we shall see how it goes. So I will be right back. Okay, so that took a little bit of time and quite a lot of actions, but here we are. We have cornered the Delight at last. Blood in the water. Again. More scabbed waves. The Delight looms in the fog, an enormous black brig that dwarfs your own ship. But although it might be your quarry, you fly Nida's flag. Your own colours are lowered, your crew and vessel disguised, as though you've been hired by the Mithridate office. And now you're reporting for duty. Your blue prophet wheels overhead, restless within sight of its sacred duty. Its voice, grating like a handful of Z-shells, accompanies the final stint of this long chase. "Caw-caw!" it cries. "The death of the Delight is here." Well, we better prepare to board the Delight. Do we actually have to be delighted for this to happen? I've heard that I can take the mask off and maybe things will change, so I may mess with that. Let this blue prophet be your offering. Let this whirling contraption cage your offering within its gleaming brass and steel framework. Let nobody suspect your loyalty. May the Prester's hand accept this flying beast. How did you ever mistake its caw for a dirge? You lift it aloft, and the bird's song is sweetness itself. Music, just like the waves against your ship. The creaking ropes, the boots on planks, thumping as your crew moves clockwork smooth to prepare your boarding. The Delight glides alongside. You can hear the Z perfectly now. Every ripple, drip, splash, trickle resonates inside your lacquer mask. Your own footsteps, thumping across the gangway, are instruments in the symphony too. You cross the churning orchestra. You step onto the Delight's deck. Your offering is accepted. You, as the symphony swells with the spray crashing over the rail, each droplet, a twinkling bell in the mist, are accepted as well. While you are aboard the Delight, you may wish to keep your shattered mask equipped. If you remove it, then you will experience more visceral events than you would typically find in Fallen London. The second sacristan runs a tight ship. Oh, that's curious, but on the other hand, do I want to have recorded some horrendously visceral events? I guess consider that a warning? My nightmares are really high. I forgot about that. Maybe that is not going to let me take the mask off. Light gleams on the ship's glossy planks, catching whirls in the wood. Everything fits here exactly where it's meant to fit. Interlocked, meticulous, shipshape in the sailor's parlance. Ropes lashed neatly, sails trimmed. Masked sailors, much like yourself, moving in concert to serve the Prester's hand. You click into place, one more cog in the well-oiled crew. You're exactly where you should be, too. Okay, let's go. Oh wow, it fully removed my nightmares. Sweet! You look through the mask. You see the mountain. Its pinnacle is a diamond in the distance, shining from a brilliant light within. Every facet in the diamond gleams with a different colour, and those colours spill down the mountain's face. Rubies and amethysts chasing each other, turquoise floods, emerald avalanches. They run across the desert that extends below its slopes. They cascade for miles, illuminating the dunes with streaming gold, painting oasis, miles and miles. Every grain of sand, another duel. And lush lawns, plashing waterfalls, succulent fruit, clear fountains, flowers, silver pagodas, palaces, temples, all rise shimmering from the painted oasis. Nida. And then more and more, Sand for miles and miles, and jungles and forests, and rivers and swamps that stretch across the continent for leagues, even for lifetimes. And then the sea, wave after wave, crests glittering in the mountain's light, which has still travelled all this distance, just to pour itself into your eyes. Just for you, on the good ship Delight. Can I take my mask off now? I feel like maybe this isn't a good idea. Something like sap oozes from the vessel's wooden planks. Sticky, wet, dripping from each timber and beam. Puddling on the decks, leaking into the surrounding sea. Hewn from the bleeding forest, the lumber still bleeds. Masked sailors leave footprints in the muck. It clings to their boots, stretching and syrupy. You cannot touch the rails, the cabin walls, even the ropes, without staining your hands crimson. Ooh, if I put the mask back on? Light gleams on the ship's glossy planks, catching whirls in the wood. Everything fits exactly where it's meant to fit. I see. Let's have a quick look around without the mask on. Let's look aloft. Most ships on the Untersee do not hoist sails, but the Delight isn't most ships. No breeze is required to blow the Delight on its course. Its sails routinely fill themselves, expanding and deflating, like massive lungs gasping to breathe. Indeed, their great folds glisten, heave and flex, titanic sheets scraped raw and fitted, stretched, pinned to the masts, as a skinned animal's hide would be stretched on a drum. I got troubled waters? Ooh, that's not good. And if I put my mask back on? Oh dear, we're still getting troubled waters, huh? Enormous sails catch the sea breeze. Even the slightest puff, embraced, compels their sheets to surge outward, like someone's chest swelling with pride. You catch them rise and fall and rise again. The water itself could be glass. The Delight slides across it so smoothly, so easily, that even without a breeze, the ship continues to glide. Oh, I need the sacristan's benediction, huh? How does one go about this? I'm worried about my troubled water, but I guess we'll carry on. Shall I take the mask off and see if we can breathe deeply? Amaranthine incense twists and coils from braziers. Even out here at Z, aroma doesn't disperse. Thick clouds enshroud the vessel like a fog. Sometimes you struggle to see through the smoke. You would gasp for fresh air, but there is no fresh air. Only more cloying, rose-scented vapour. And underneath the incense, when a rare breeze lifts the curtain for a fleeting instant, carnage. Your gorge rises. You cannot keep it down. You lean over the ship's railing and add another note to the perfume in the atmosphere. Oh dear. Let's put that mask back on. Roses, roses, roses. All the roses in the world. Blossoming at daybreak in a dew-drenched grove. Petals distilled into this scarlet scent, which fills your head with springtime. You are at Z, with salt spray in the air, but the garden is still in your nose. It is in everyone's nose, just as its sap runs in everyone's blood, red as roses, red as rubies, red as the sky at sunrise when the clouds are fire. Well, my troubled waters is still getting really high, but let's descend to the lower decks. Staircases lead downward to more cabins. Oh, I succeeded the delighted challenge. Rays slant around you, scattering, casting quadrants that glow on the cabin walls. Red diamonds, yellow diamonds, green, leaping across the wooden planks, balustrades guide your grip, their gleaming rails leading you deeper into the delight. Here are the crew's quarters. Here is where they rest their heads, where they drink, where they dream, where they guard the second sacristan's cabin. More music filters through the door, thunderous and sublime as the great organ at St. Fiacre's Cathedral. Okay, well, it seems pretty nice, but that's because I passed the check. I kind of want to fail the check just to see what it says, but let's just go with the flow, I guess. Oh, do you know what? No, I'm going back up again. Hang on. Descend downstairs. I want to fail. I want to see what happens. Narrow stairs, tight, dark, and cramped. You have to duck your head. You have to twist yourself, almost slip, with the bleeding walls, the ceilings, floors, contributing to a cascade that dribbles down into the ship's belly. Here are the crew's quarters. Too many people, too close together. Packed like eels into a tin, and you're just another. Squeeze through. Wriggle. The second sacristan's cabin is ahead, guarded by more masked servants. Screams carry through the closed door. I think I just have to be careful I don't let my nightmares get out of control again. Let's chat with the other masked corsairs. The Prester's hand has enlisted many. None are more faithful than these. We succeeded again. Cousins, siblings, family, friends. These are your brethren, your kin. You already belong. There isn't one person above or below, dawn burnt or shadow bound, whose expression wouldn't shine when faced with this glowing camaraderie. How easy it is to speak with them, how freely the words flow. They understand all your moods and manners. Even the commonest comment about a dropped tool, a compass, always pointing back to the mountain. The recent weather is a glittering gem in the conversation. Oh, what's this? Attend to a shrouded captive. Is this the Youthful Naturalist? You cannot see under the sheet. Withdraw the sheet. Look below at the familiar face. The last time you spoke, the shrouded captive was sitting in a white parlour in Klein. You removed the living shell of regret from his body at his request. Now another already started to grow. It is only a little knob, no bigger than a knuckle. Does he recognize you? If he does, then he gives no signal. Not that he could give one easily. His arms are bound, hands chained together, legs locked in heavy manacles. Imprisoned for high crimes against the design. Your contact from the Kingdom of Klein has been captured. Uh-oh, you aren't alone with the shrouded captive. Masked corsairs enter the cabin behind you, striding forward with intent. Polished instruments hang on the walls. Silver crooks and silver flails and silver hooks with long handles. Someone holds a silver knife whose blade cuts the shadows with a glint. He could cut more than that. So we can assist the Prester's agents. Pain is penance. Only blood can absolve certain sins. We can stand back and watch. You won't participate, nor will you intervene. Or we can put a stop to these proceedings. Whatever the Prester's justice may entail, the shrouded captive doesn't deserve it. Let's just stand back and watch. Grisly work. Bone, gristle, blood. The shrouded captive would scream, but his tongue is slipping down his throat, pulled backwards as the Prester's agents labour. They have opened his skin, where his shell would attach to his spine. They have hooked something inside, something that squirms. They pull it slowly from the incision, and his tongue continues to disappear. His tongue is no mere tongue. It is a squirming thing, the front end, as it were. If the masked corsairs have caught the back, they finally coax it out. It undulates like a pink slug. Resting the tongue on a silver platter, they bless its writhing flesh. They will carry it to the captain's cabin. The shrouded captive will not blaspheme again. Good Lord, That's a bit grisly, wasn't it? Let's see if we can fail this chatting to the masked corsairs. I want to see what happens. Some wear lacquer masks. Some stone. Some don't seem to be wearing masks until you see the seams around their skulls. Flesh masking flesh. For better or worse, the crew barely acknowledge you. They're too engaged with their work. Most are so intently focused that you, with your comments and queries, are another peripheral object. Table, crate, cutlass, unmasked corsair, rope, anchor. Wait, unmasked corsair? Suspicious glances. They don't know if you're wearing a mask of flesh yourself. Perhaps you'd better move along before they look closer. That seems fair. Let's take some food and drink. How bad can this go? Wait, didn't we get benedictions? Oh, we need to get 3 benedictions? Oh, God. Okay. All the crew gather together to eat. You belong to the crew, do you not? Sparkling cutlery. Brimming tankards. Merriment as the tankards spill foam in a toast. Every dish served, each silver lid lifted, reveals another sumptuous morsel. You do not simply dine, you feast. And the flavours you taste, nectar, ambrosia, marvels on the tongue. If the Presta's hand serves such delicacies here, then what miracles must appear at the Presta's own table? Kinda wanna fail? See what the food is? You only note the worm halfway through the biscuit. The first of many. It is a stale biscuit. It has been stale for ages. You almost crack your teeth, but you must eat. Your stomach growls, your throat is parched. Tankards brim with scarlet sludge, which has little bits floating on the surface, and much larger bits floating below. I genuinely don't think I can keep this up, looking at both sides. I think I am going to go mad, so I may just put the mask back on and glide through this dream, brilliantly as it is. Let's descend to the lowest deck. Staircases lead downward to more cabins. What birds aren't gathered here to sing sweetly as you step into the ship's hold, into a garden at dawn and a forest at midnight, when the sunrise inspires the rooster, when the moonlight is the owl's muse. Winged creatures, bats, even insects, the droning dragonfly, the buzzing bee, are assembled, collected in silver cages from the remotest islands and the most distant lands. We can examine the birds. Gilded cages fill the hold where cargo would more typically be stowed. Peacocks strut behind the bars, emeralds and sapphires flashing in bedewed plumage. Nightingales pour golden notes from diamond beaks. Robins with ruby feathers and blue jays with aquamarine. And topaz canaries hop from perch to dazzling perch, each more mellifluous than the bird before. They sing together, practicing here in the hold, as they will sing for the Presta himself in Nida at their journey's end. That didn't seem so bad. Let's examine the other cages. These are not gilded, and not as numerous, but their contents are still precious. Nida is so very far away. Most souls would struggle to make the pilgrimage, but the second sacristan has blessed these lucky few with a charter. Of course they must be caged. They are criminals, blasphemers, who would find themselves imprisoned in any lawful land. You don't see the Youthful Naturalist, but you recognise 2 guardsmen from Klein's city gate. They broke the Presta's own laws by admitting a thief into the kingdom, someone plotting to steal a shell of regret. And yet the Presta will still accept their atonement, for who needs salvation more than a sinner? You can retrieve our almost tame blue prophet. You can hear a familiar cackle coming from deeper in the hold. Down the musical rows you move, between the chirping birds and bats. Their ranks ascend, shelf after shelf on either side. Innumerable members in the delight's winged choir. One voice rises above the rest, prophetic, azure. A great offering indeed for the Presta. It flutters to land on your shoulder again. It sings about death, but also about life. It sings about dark waters touched by sunlight, about sin and forgiveness, passion, love. And the entire choir joins, until you come to understand that only the blackest night needs the brightest candle, and the most heinous crime, the most mercy. So we have 2 out of the 3 things required to ascend to the higher deck. The only place we haven't found something is on the highest deck, I believe. I definitely only have 2 out of the 3 benedictions. All I can think of is trying to examine these without the mask on. Let's examine the other cages without the mask and see what happens if we lose our mind. These enclosures are larger than the bird cages. Shackled figures dangle from hooks mounted inside, swaying as the ship rocks. You search for the Youthful Naturalist. You don't find him. You do, however, recognize 2 corpses, the guards from the Kingdom of Klein, who inspected and fatefully approved your travel papers at the city gate. Their clothes have been stripped. Where their shells of regret would have been, there are festering wounds. And their skulls, their spines, have been split open to extract something from deeper within their bodies. Something where the shells were once rooted. That didn't help. I can try and examine the bird cages. I think I'm about to go mad. Oh, can I just put the mask back on and it makes everything okay again? Oh, isn't that nice? It took some sleuthing, but I finally managed to find the final place to get Sacristan's benediction. Turned out I had to be on the deck, but with a certain number of troubled waters. Didn't see that coming. So let's worship with the devoted deckhands. Sailors are a superstitious lot. Kneel with them. Observe their rituals. Labour itself is worship. How the muscles move, the bones, the blood. Your pulse is a steady beat. More music as you work. Kneeling with the others. Threading wicks, rendering fat. Crafting candles, large and small, to adorn the deck. Candles for the captain's cabin. Candles to burn at the Prester's table. Which is the Prester's altar? When you return to Nida, you will need a great many candles. The Prester's table is large. Everyone in the world has a seat, but the Waxwind has given the crew a bounty. They have been at their task since Godfall, and they still have more tallow in reserve. We got 7 morning candles and our Sacristan's benediction. Let's descend below decks and see if we can get into the captain's cabin. Here we go. Enter the second Sacristan's cabin. One of the most devout sailors. Only the most devout sailors may pass the threshold. We currently have the mask on. I don't know if that's going to make a difference. Let's find out. Candles glow. Hundreds around the cabin. Their wicks are fiery beams, as if the world were a stained glass window and the candles were cracks through which sunlight could directly pour. All things illuminated, all colours brilliant. All the corsairs kneeling, bright with glory that shines from without and also from within. There are panes in the stained glass. Their bodies are living light. They line the walls, bowed before their radiant captain, for nothing shines more than the second sacristan, sleeves streaming with sunbeams, haloed, bearing a golden cup upon a silver plate. The cup brims with pure honesty. The Youthful Naturalist is sitting in the cabin. The second sacristan towers above him, tipping the cup to his lips. He drinks deeply. Into the Youthful Naturalist's mouth, the second sacristan has poured truth itself. Truth is something that shines like a blood-red ruby. Its light sparkles behind his teeth. It shimmers on his lips. The second sacristan leans forward to listen. And what the Youthful Naturalist says, each word he speaks, resonates with the music of the spheres. So we can either listen to the Youthful Naturalist. He's talking about his own life, confessing everything that led to this moment. We can confront the second sacristan. Someone has to stop this before it's too late. We can only choose one of these. I'd like to save the youthful naturalist, but I'm also curious about the things that he is confessing. Let's listen and see where it goes. And the tidal pools on Mutton Island. Excellent for my research, although benthic wouldn't exactly fund me. But that's benthic for you. The good old Department of Extrapolatory Cartographic Zoology, always struggling to make ends meet. Not that I was complaining at the time. You learn to fend for yourself, and if you don't learn, well, you don't make it far. Certainly not in the Neath. Not anywhere. No, not really. Even if you're studying jellyfish. Not that I was just studying jellyfish. Down there in the tidal pools, during the festival in false summer, when it went horribly wrong, and I slipped on the rocks. I can continue to listen to the naturalist. He's describing a mishap from his scholarly fieldwork on Mutton Island. Slipped underwater with the jellyfish. Not just the jellyfish, dead men and women. Drownies. And I couldn't swim back. Hit my head, thought my days were numbered. He is shaking uncontrollably. But it wasn't the end. Oh no, it wasn't anywhere close to the end. Even though I kept sinking down to a table, a whole feast spread on the Z floor, where the drownies were eating with the Fathom King. Seaweed in my face, kelp, tentacles, and the Fathom King carving a catch. Something bloated and pale. I can still taste it. I'll never forget it, like lemons, if lemons were sweet. And it opened my eyes. The second sacristan leans closer. Opened my eyes to what my life has been leading towards. Well, we can continue listening to the naturalist. He shivers and sweats as he talks about what he has witnessed. The grinning skull, always grinning, right there under my skin. When I look in the water, when I see my own reflection, when I glimpse the future of the drowning feast. But even death is in the end. Not for me. Just the start. Death is only the start. The second sacristan lifts one long finger as if to gently shush him. But the youthful naturalist continues to ramble. Anywhere I go, everything I do, just leads back to me, back to my grinning skull. The second sacristan isn't listening. The prester's hand has turned, instead, towards you. There is no mask on your face. You don't belong here, do you? With your unworn mask reclaimed so easily. Snagged by the second sacristan's talon? No, you don't belong at all. Oh no, my shattered mask. I quite like that mask. Oh dear. The second sacristan's peacoat bulges. Massive lumps shift inside. Beneath the traditional's captain's cap, you see no face, even at this close range. But concealed by the sacristan's knotted cravat, there are more lumps where most sailors would have a face. Long arms extend with long claws at their ends. Too many elbows, impossible joints, segmented limbs that spread, prepared to seize you in their grip. So we can either evade the right arm, it bends at 5, 6, 7 joints, possibly even more, or we can challenge the left arm. Talons shine in the candlelight like carving knives. Let's put on our hardest wearing outfit here. 63%, huh? Well, let's try. Joints crack. Pop, pop, pop. As the arm contorts, lunging forward, snapping back, bending at every angle to catch your wrists, your throat. You wrestle the limb like a squirming python. Meanwhile, the right arm leans. Pop, pop, pop. From behind. Talons spread in a sparkling fan, and with a swipe it descends to rake your left arm as you frantically twist an elbow. Fabric shreds, buttons bounce. The second sacristan's peacoat bursts asunder at the seams, ripped by its own razor hands. More arms erupt from within. How many hands does the prester's hand have? Okay, we have a a few other options here. I think maybe negotiating is my highest stat here. 51%, huh? Arms writhe from the ruptured coat, snaking across the floor, scrambling up the walls, each one still connected to the second sacristan, with its faceless face obscured by its fine, flouncing silk cravat. Its elbows have knocked over the youthful naturalist's chair. He is struggling to untie ropes from his own limbs. The traitor's tongue is pleading in his mouth. Don't bite, don't bite. Okay. Let's see if we can negotiate. Ow! You barely repulse one hand before 20 more lunge, smothering you in their heap. But as they strike at you, they strike each other, wounding any flesh their fingers touch. Deep within the peacoat, something like a low rumble develops, rising in volume, increasing until the second sacristan's screech would shatter glass. Portholes explode, wooden beams shake, not just from the ceaseless shriek, but from the arms that won't fit in the cabin anymore. Elbows jabbing the ceiling, palms pressing against the walls, claws scratching the floor to find purchase. If you fell into a viper's nest, the serpents wouldn't thrash so viciously. Arms still cascade from the coat. They fill the captain's cabin. They wrestle with themselves, entangled, tattered sleeves aflame. Furniture burns. Too many candles overturned. Smoke in your lungs. Smoke in your eyes. Another hand in yours, but not the Prester's hand. The youthful naturalist is pulling you toward the door, finally untied. He gestures with his head. Follow me. Oh, we have quite a lot of options here. We can avoid the outstretched palm. Your eyes sting from the smoke. Concentrate. We can slip past a silver blade. One hand has seized a holy instrument from the tabernacle. We can pry interlocked elbows apart, arms entwined to block your passage to the door, or we can leap over the limbs. Door. Let's go with watch your step. Fingers are slithering under your feet. Let's go with watchful. That's kind of my highest stat. Oh god, it's still only 33%, huh? Well, you never know. Maybe we'll win. Behind you, more arms pour from the peacoat. You catch one final glimpse as the cravat unravels too. Fingers for a face. Ruby eyes stuck in gold rings. They sparkle through the smoke, glinting beneath the captain's cap, which bobs, perched smartly, even now, atop the mass. Just as another claw slices your skin, the youthful naturalist knocks it away, and 1,000 hands surge after you. Crashing down corridors, shattering planks, flooding the delight with flailing limbs. Masked corsairs scream and draw swords, arms bury them. You watch sailors dragged, wailing, into cabins that seethe with talons. Hey, at least we gained 20 venom rubies. All around you, streams begin to trickle from the walls. Soon, the streams are more than trickles. Shouting sailors battle to ascend the flooding stairs. But there are hands everywhere. Arms clog the cabins, knuckles crack as fingers curl through smashed portholes. Entire corridors are jammed with popping joints. Undeterred, the youthful naturalist nods his head. Up. Oh, we can climb around the fingers? You'll have to get past them. Watch the nails. They are quite sharp. Or we can crawl over the knuckles. Each bony knob is another step back to the main deck, if you don't trip. Climb the fingers, 51%, flip the coin. Oh my god, we actually succeeded. Only now do you notice the sigils inscribed on the arms, the long strings of calligraphy, rose red and pelican, like tattooed veins. A single glance, and suddenly the text burns in your brain. I am eternal, again and again, repeating on each limb. And yet my reign is circumscribed by law and fate, carved into every talon. I will feast at my funeral, and my child shall be my cupbearer. Radiant words, golden haze in your head. You could fall backwards, surrender yourself to the open palms waiting to catch you. Yet I am generous. All shall feast. You don't fall anywhere. The youthful naturalist scrambles onto the deck right behind you before the stairs collapse. Below, watery darkness churns. False stars twinkle above, serene despite the chaos on the deck. Sailors are leaping overboard. The braziers are toppled, elbowed by swarming arms. Flames touch the sails. There is a great crack that runs, shivering through the vessel. Planks bristle like a terrified cat's back, splinters puffing outward like raised hair as masts buckle and snap. The youthful naturalist wordlessly meets your gaze. His own is resolute. Let's abandon ship. Floundering hands reach out to drag you down. Like a huge egg, the vessel cracks in half. Birds burst from the hold. Bats flock into the air. Insects swarm. Bees, frost moths, butterflies, and 100,000 arms strain after them. You float on wreckage. The youthful naturalist clings to the tabernacle, which has tumbled with a splash into the foam. Drifting at a distance, you watch the delight sink. One wouldn't even know it was a ship. It is bundled completely in limbs that wrap around the hull, thread through the corridors and cabins in a monstrous knot. Joints continue to pop, but they cannot untangle themselves. Still writhing, the undersea claims them. Hey, we gain some making waves there. Debris floats around you in the bloody waves. Broken furniture, ripped fabric, ropes that undulate like snaking arms, but are just ropes, thankfully. You perch with the youthful naturalist on the tabernacle from the captain's cabin. The treasures stored inside have all been swallowed by the sea, leaving no more than the empty but eminently buoyant cabinet itself. Quite a capacious cabinet, considering its current use as a life raft for two. Let's ask about the traitor's tongue. During your escape, the youthful naturalist didn't speak. He opens his mouth, there's nothing inside. When the traitor's tongue begged for him not to bite down, he bit down. But he grins. His grin is terrifyingly elastic. His eyes still glisten from Saint Stalactite's shaping pools. When he sweats, his sweat is tinged amber. He is sweating right now, working his jaws, making strange noises in his throat. Gurgles, grunts. Words as his tonsils contort. Words, 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 as his cheeks flap and his gums ripple. Words like, "Talk about a pleasure cruise," and then he laughs. Was his laughter always so squishy? Let's ask about the naturalist's destiny. The College of Mortality seems interested, to put it one way, in this subject. "I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to tell anybody," says the naturalist, still finding new ways to form words. His voice is hollow, echoing against his teeth. "I've never died, not even once. Can you believe it? But I know what death looks like. I see him whenever I look at myself. I've tried to do everything to stay alive. You can come back, but when I meet the boatman, I'll have to sit in his seat, wear his hat, take his place. The shaping arts aren't enough, don't you see? The garden isn't enough. Destiny stays the same, even if the road takes a new turn to get there. The boatman has been waiting very patiently for his replacement." Oh my god, this is all going back to that conversation where they talked about the card game and how the boatman wants a holiday. So we can either advise him to accept death. No wonder the garden isn't enough. Destiny is not subverted lightly. Advise him to still seek eternal life. His research with the stone tentacle key has shown promise. Or we can advise him to study the design. Life, death, Small words with big definitions. Before he settles on which road to take, perhaps he should contemplate the map more, so to speak. Oh, let's go with that option. Malleability. Maybe that wasn't the correct choice here. Oh well, we'll see, I guess. My whole life, I felt something moving me, like a magnet under a table. Sometimes ideas pop into my brain. I couldn't say why. The way that a shopkeeper might turn her head, or the way a ribbon feels, or how sunlight strikes the water. All these little moments, little causes and effects leading to bigger ones, leading to this. He looks around at the floating wreckage. The design, he says, feeling the word in his mouth. One name for it, but designs need designers, don't they? Maybe not. Maybe there's more at work here than I thought. Well, let's hail an approaching ship. The Royal Navy has apparently arrived to save the day. Fancy meeting you here, says the rowdy corsair. Nice ship, right? He runs a finger along a rail, inspecting it like a parlour maid for dust. Saw it, stole it, liked it, kept it. A crew is fishing for plunder before everything from the Delight sinks for good. A saint in a rock let me go. Just wanted to keep me around until you talked to me. Guess he thought you'd need my help back there, finding your friend. He looks you both up and down as you drip on the deck. Guess you needed my help again, huh? Hey, we have the crew of the HMS Ramillies. The HMS Ramillies is a Royal Navy battleship. Was, says the rowdy corsair, all mine now. The Navy itself might have something to say about that, but however she commandeered it, her crew have quite a juggernaut to plunder the Z until they're caught. Caught? He barks out. Ha! At the notion. Nobody's gonna clap irons on these. Her wrists wiggle with boneless flexibility. Compliments of the saint in the rock. Let's rendezvous with our own ship. Happy to drop you off, says the rowdy corsair. Get you out of my hair. Her crew is singing again. Me bully boys, as they scavenge for treasure. Other ships circle the wreckage to find survivors. You think you see something like a pink slug in the water, but then the cutthroat tenor blocks your view. Just hooked this, the tenor says. Yours, ain't it? The mask's lacquer catches the light, still invitingly glossy. When you finally, after a ballad-fueled voyage, reunite with your own ship, your lookout is ecstatic with relief. Captain, you were gone for weeks! Even now, rose-scented incense clings to your clothes, your skin, your memory. Hey, we gained a point of prolific pirate, we gained some plunder. I also got my shattered mask back, which is quite nice. Compare notes with the Youthful Naturalist aboard your ship to continue. Let's find out. Sailing with the Youthful Naturalist. He's still practicing how to speak without a tongue. His vowels might sound hollow, but his consonants might clack, but he hasn't lost his appetite. If anything, he's more voracious. He devours Z-food, fresh or preserved, and all the hardtack he can find. Don't care about the taste, he says, slurping down jellied eels. Just can't let myself get too bony. Compare notes with him. Quite a lot has happened since you were last together on Godfall. Godfall? Says the Youthful Naturalist. Yes, of course. I was meditating in the cloisters. That's when Saint Stalactite spotted a ship. At first I thought it was you, coming back from London with the blueprints. But then I saw the flag and... His voice is much smaller now. I don't want to die, he says. Tell the truth, I'm scared. But he suddenly shakes himself. What am I talking about? We're this close to a breakthrough. I can't let the college win. Not after what they did to me. I need to keep working. He continues to keep himself aboard your ship. Rather than staying below decks, however, he is more likely to come topside and squint across the Z. If the Youthful Naturalist is worried about serpentine arms still slithering through the water, he never spots anything, and it's back down to his books and his notes, and your tinned eels. Let's discuss the stolen plans from the Admiralty. At long last, you can deliver the goods from the giggling charwoman. I didn't think I'd get to see these plans, not after the Prester's hand caught me. But here I am, alive against all odds, And here they are. He starts to study the blueprints for the experimental diving bell. We'll need to beat more odds to build this thing. Hours have passed. Empty tins lie at his feet. Jellied eels devoured. The youthful naturalist scratches his chin, taps a list of mechanical components with a pencil. I know where to get these. If we can make this contraption actually work, then we'll be able to dive deep enough. We'll be able to find more stone tentacle keys, not just one or two. Plenty for anything we need. He lets out a sheepish laugh. There's just one thing. Here's you his journals from Klein. There are drawings inside. Diagrams, anatomies, maps that match, or very nearly match, other maps from the Admiralty. The Shell of Regret. You wouldn't still happen to have it, would you? Oh, I need to return to London to reacquire the Shell of Regret from the Dillman Club. To London. Okay, we made it back to London. Retrieving the Shell of Regret. You might still have your Dillman Club lapel pin, but you find many doors closed. His amused lordship is busy at the court. The implacable detective is embroiled in a case, something to do with the dead professor. The bishop isn't anywhere at all, not at home, not at St. Fiacre's. Rumour has it he's been seen at Dante's Grill, dining with an emissary from the Empire of Hands, which the restaurant's ember-eyed hostess smoothly denies. We can pay a call on the unlikely florist, an unlikely club member to approach, but she's receiving visitors today. Her rooms are filled with... what else? Roses. Pink roses and red, fresh cut in crystal, thorns sticky with crimson sap. She is entertaining many guests, Mrs. B and Lady P, and the veteran Privy Councillor's cousin's husband's sister, among other luminaries. Do you want the shell? She asks. With an opportune moment, she draws you aside. Good. You can have it. Her social veneer has a crack. She smiles when Lady P walks past, but then she snaps back to you like a mousetrap. Orchard House is locked. One wing at least. Another smile for Mrs. B. Too much growth, too quickly. We had to quarantine the shell, but if you can kill it again... Oh, how lovely to see Mrs. M's daughters. Such charming young ladies, aren't they? And all five dressed in the same Glingham pattern. The unlikely florist moves away through the crowd, drawn by the human current, but her eyes linger on you. She nods. She'll help. This is where the current chapter of evolution ends. When the unlikely florist is available, she'll contact you again through your opportunity deck to retrieve the Shell of Regret. Prepare to do a little gardening. We gained one extraordinary implication and some making waves. But this is where I shall end this episode of Evolution. I'm thoroughly enjoying the storyline of Evolution. I'm mildly annoyed that I keep running out of actions, but that's more of a recording problem than a story problem. I'm enjoying it an awful lot. I am looking very much forward to where this story is going, and I hope you are all enjoying it the same. But either way, thank you all very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. If you really want to help the channel, please become a member. It really does help. And as always, I'll see you next time.